Welcome to Ultra Uncovered, the podcast where we explore the untamed world of ultra running. I'm Corinne Shalvoy.
And I'm Russell Bitsworth, and today we're peeling back the layers of the Influencers 100, the race that Born to Run made a sensation, the race across the sky, the legendary Leadville 100. So from Matt Carpenter's hotly debated 15:42 course record in 2015 to Claire Gallagher's infamous frosting-fueled 19-hour finish, the second fastest in history, this race has stories to fill an entire library. And that said, today we have an extra special episode for you today with the Castle Rock Run Club.
Yeah, we're basically just hanging out in person with about 7 of my very good friends. We have all had many different experiences at the Leadville 100, but I think it's all meant a lot to each of us in a number of different ways. Some of us love it. Some of us hate it. Some of us are not sure what we think of it. But we're going to hear from a lot of different people who've had a lot of different experiences. And we're going to introduce you to some of our core, running groups. So Castle Rock Run Club is a group that Graham and I founded 10, 11 years ago now. And we've all kind of grown in distance together. We've all gotten to know each other really well, our families, and we've paced, we've cried, we've thrown up with one another. So it's all been good. But yeah, we're gonna just hear from everyone, different ideas, different perspectives, and to set the stage just before we get into conversations here. If you are not familiar, the Leadville Trail 100 is, like Russ said, one of the most iconic 100-mile races in the United States. It happens every August, usually second or third week in August, and it is an out and back course. It runs from the town of Leadville at 10,200 feet and goes through some iconic aid stations, which we will mention, to a high point of 12,600 feet. Hope Pass is the turnaround, or is the top and the highest point of the race, which you then descend Hope Pass and get to Winfield at 50 miles. You turn around and you start to return back to Leadville. Out and backs, we'll talk about those. People like them. Benefits, detriments, all of that. But it's all about 10,200 feet, hence why it's called the race across the sky. And altitude, brings many challenges and different things that tend to eat people up later in the day, especially at this 100-miler. So a couple of just quick things that you may hear people mention these aid station names as we talk about things. May Queen is your first major aid station, 13 miles in, just a little half marathon in. Then you go to Outward Bound, which is in a big field. We've cooked lots of meals there. There's fires in the evening. That is
mile 24 for Outward Bound.
Yep.
And then we'll hit Twin Lakes. You might hear people talking about Twin Lakes, a tiny little town off Highway 82, but you hit that station twice, first at mile 38, and then you'll take your trip up and over Hope Pass to Winfield and back, and then hit Twin Lakes coming back in at mile 62. From there, it's back to Outward Bound again, and then again back to May Queen at mile 87. And so we're going to do introductions here in just a quick second so we can get everybody integrated here. But those are just some of the main aid stations that you'll hear about. You might hear about some aid stations like Pipeline. That's kind of between Outward Bound and Twin Lakes. But again, as we're going through here, you may hear some of those things.
Yeah, there's also an aid station called Hopeless that is on the side of Hope Pass, where they famously bring llamas to trek all of the gear up there in the water. It is a beautiful aid station, and it's really cool to see llamas, but it's also an aid station where there's a lot of people ending their race and ending their day because they've either missed a cutoff or not going to make it to the top of Hope Pass, so they decide to hang out there. So it's kind of it's got its own kind of interesting, vibe. And there's one that's not an official aid station
called the Space Aid Station at the top of the climb.
From the power line climb all the way back. Yeah. So
unofficial aid station, but very cool and only on the way back.
Yes, where you're required to do a dance party. I guess unless you're maybe leaving, maybe, I don't know, something like that. So, yeah, before we introduce you to everyone who's in the room here, just a quick mention for the Castle Rock Run Club does have a nutrition club on the feed. So if you listen to this podcast, you may listen to some other podcasts who also are sponsored by the feed, including like the Summer Call Play podcast and the Free Trail podcast. They have their nutrition clubs. We also have a nutrition club. You can go to thefeed.com /Castle Rock Run Club, and we'll put it in the show notes. What? Show notes? We have show notes? Oh my God. Okay. We'll put it in the show notes. You can go there and get a $20 credit every quarter. And I'm just going to say, wait, I got to get it. Our bottle is the best bottle. We have our very own bottle, and it is a CRRC Castle Rock Run Club bottle. It has our unofficial Sugar Skull logo on it. It's black. I mean, I think that's cool. And then it has the Strava profile or the Strava route of one of our local runs that we do Wednesdays and Fridays, the Castle Rock Run Club loop on the Ridgeline trails. And this one doesn't have it, but every other one has our saying, which you came up with, Adam, I believe.
I don't think I take credit for that.
I don't know. I think you did. What's our slogan, Adam?
That sounds awful. That sounds awful. Sign me up.
That sounds awful. Sign me up is our slogan. So you would get a free water bottle if you sign up. So just a quick promo for the feed. We've got lots of gels here in case we go for 2 or 3 hours. We can replenish ourselves. So yeah. So who is here with us? Want to just go around. If you would each say your name and what your involvement has been in the Leadville 100. One word that describes Leadville for you. And if you want to say something else about just kind of a fun fact about yourself.
Okay.
Mr. Kyle Van Dusen.
So I'm Kyle Van Dusen, as you all know. And I've been a part of the Castle Rock Run Club for 5 years. When I started to get back into running, it's been just a blessing having all these wonderful people here and some people that aren't here to run with. I think one word for Leadville 100 would be, for me, inspiring. I love running. I like running longer distances, but in my mind, 100 miles is insane. A lot of the people here will talk about it. So just seeing people out there grinding and just like grinding it out, which we'll talk more about. People mention that, but it's just really an inspiring event. And it's been really fun to experience it with people here, people running it, crewing with people here. A fun fact about me is I've lived in 6 different states and 1 other country.
Nice.
So, yeah.
What's your favorite state?
Colorado.
Okay.
Because of this group of friends here.
Oh, man.
And remind us, what years you participated in Leadville?
So last year I helped pace Mr. Russell Disworth. And then the year before I went up and saw Todd and Justin as well. Todd had a great finish.
And you ran Hope Pass, didn't you?
You ran up to Hope Pass on your own.
Yeah. And wanted to encourage Todd and Justin coming up and just to see the llamas. And so that was really cool to see that. And I cannot imagine, how far are you into the race when you go up that? 40 miles. Like I was fresh and it was like fun to run up there, but I was like, how do people do this? And then do it down and then come back up and down it. So,
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thanks for being here, Kyle.
Yeah.
Adam.
Well, I'm Adam Dill. So I've been at Leadville for about 12 years now, crewing and supporting it. So from my brother-in-law to my cousin Todd and the rest of the Castle Rock Run Club. So it's been a minute that I've been up there. Love it. And I'd say one word for me is, I'm going to just borrow it from the founders of Leadville, but I would say Leadville to me always is family. And you meet strangers, you meet people, but as soon as you go spend time in Leadville, you spend time in a 100-mile race together, you become family. And that's really how I got connected with pretty much everyone here, other than obviously my cousin. And then I got blackmailed into joining the Castle Rock Run Club because I did not know about a thing called Strava. And they would not tell me anything about the ride up unless I signed up for Strava and started running with them. So
pay to play, man.
It works. It worked. So that's how I got connected with everybody here, and have just loved it. It's the highlight of my year every year.
Yeah, and you're sporting one of our. This was our second shirt that we did as a run club, Muertes versus Leadville. Back to the Cowboys versus everybody.
Yep.
We've now done Muertes versus Leadville and Muertes versus Black Canyon shirts.
Yep.
So yeah.
So it's real easy.
You
to find
designed
this
them.
at Leadville.
Huh?
Not
Yeah.
even Gretchen
Bright
designed
blue.
this, but
Yes.
there'll be like 50 people wearing this shirt. So
We bring a
Someone
squad.
come say hi.
We bring a squad. Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
Me?
Todd.
Todd.
Right. I'm Todd Dill. I found this club in 2018, and they kind of introduced me to trail running. And at that time, they really shared the stoke of ultras, which was totally new to me at that time. But like a lot of us, I signed up for Twitter so I could follow I Run Far and just became kind of an ultra running geek. And that led to Billy Yang. I watched the Y. I think it was still in 2018, and just decided at that time I really wanted to do Leadville eventually. I entered the lottery that year, didn't get in, ran Silver Rush that year, ended up qualifying. So I've run Leadville in 2019, no race in 2020, crewed and paced Corinne in 21, ran in 22, and running again this year. So a lot of experience with Leadville. Love that. I'm one of the people that really enjoy the race. But I think with that, the one word for me would be happy. I've run a handful of races, and I think sometimes, as athletes, we can get a little too serious, a little too into the task at hand or whatever. But Leadville, for whatever reason, has been the place that I've always been able to just let it go, be happy, enjoy the people around me, the moment. And I don't know what it is about it. I think there's a lot of things about it, but that's what I would describe Leadville as.
Cool.
Love it. Now, Mr. Graham Chavoy has been on the podcast numerous times. He is the most repeated guest, but I still think, and I definitely want to hear your some thoughts about Leadville.
Wait, Russ, what about you? You need to do you first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go with a word for me to describe Leadville is just we're gonna have to come back to me on a word.
Okay, all right.
But I will think of a good one, and I'll give you also a good fun fact as well.
So what's been your experience?
So my experience with Leadville is all pacing and crewing until last year. So in 2021 was the first time that I came up and I paced and crewed Corinne in her first 100-mile attempt at Leadville. Finish. Attempt and finish.
Don't make it sound like I DNF'd that race.
Our company. And then also paced Todd the following year in 2022. And then I attempted my first 100-mile race in 2023.
Finished. You ran.
I ran and completed my first. So,
yes, you did.
Yeah, so I really love the race. I love the town. Our friend Justin has a place there, so it's kind of a happy place. We all can convene there, and I just, to echo Todd's sentiment, happy. Like, I drive up there and I know that I'm going to be hanging out with friends and trying to do something very difficult and achieve some goals together, and that to me is very meaningful. So,
and you and I have a very close, very similar finishing time at Leadville 100. I don't know exactly how close it is, but I think it's pretty close. And we have drastically different experiences and paces. Yet we finished. I mean, we'll have to tell the story, but our finishing times are very close.
They are very close. Yeah. I was chasing a virtual Corinne. I don't think that I actually caught the virtual Corinne.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to do.
But I was gaining ground. Let's just say I was gaining ground.
In that race, a snail couldn't caught me. I'll tell you that. All right. Yeah. Sweet. All right, Graham.
All right. So Graham Shalvoy, I co-founded the Castle Rock Run Club 10 or 11 years ago. And Leadville's always been special to me. We've been up there a number of times, crewing and pacing for a variety of athletes. I paced Corinne a very long end of a Leadville race that was as challenging maybe for me as it was for her. No, just kidding.
I think it probably was.
But it was, it's an amazing thing to watch someone run 100 miles. So for my own personal experience, I ran it last year. I ran 78% of it. It was good until.
Oh, you're spoiling it for everybody.
It was good until it wasn't. And so I think my one word for Leadville is dehydration.
Dehydration. Dehydration. All right. Dave?
Hey, I'm Dave.
That sounded like from the, what is it? Dave. The Minion. No, the Penguins movie. Okay. Yeah. Dave. Hi, I'm Dave.
Could be a movie quote nobody gets.
Yes, they will. There are people who listen who have watched that movie. Okay.
So I'm Dave Leung. I've been with this group from, actually, I think I came the month after Todd did in 2018. With Leadville, I watched Todd finish the race in 2019, and then in starting in 21, I started crewing Justin Henry, and I did crew him 3 years in a row. So that's my history with Leadville. One word.
What are you doing this year?
Oh, I'm running Leadville.
Yeah.
There's that.
There's that.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Is this your first 100 miler?
This is my first 100 mile. Yep. Longest distance ever.
Prior to this, what's your longest?
Was Gorge.
100K.
Gorgeous waterfalls. 100K, yeah. So one word for me, though, I think is very suiting for this is catalyst. And it sounds kind of corny, but I was one of those born to run guys, and I read the book back when I lived in Portland, Oregon. I was like, road runner, hurt, everything is achy to me about road running, painful, always getting injured. And then this idea of trail running is like, okay, this is awesome. This is what it's all about. I started getting on the trails in Forest Park, and I was like, I feel great here, and this is where I want to be. And then another reason Catalyst is important to me for Leadville is like half a lifetime ago, this is where it all started for me, Colorado. I came out from college to get my wilderness first responder. Spent 10 days out in Leadville, getting that certification. And I spent so much time out here, just kind of in the national forest area around Leadville. So I don't know, this place is really special to me. And this is kind of me running this year as a 100 miler. My first 100 mile, this is like what I've always wanted to do with trail running. So it's kind of like the pinnacle. I don't know where I go from here. It's kind of weird.
To Cocodona 250.
Just run more. So, yeah.
I think you bring up a good point, and to have a 100-mile race like this and to really have a good reason to want to do it is important. And so I like that this feels like something. I mean, there will be something after that. There will always be with this club. There will be something to sign up for, something awful to sign up for.
Yeah, that's right.
But I do love that you have like an amazing thought process of this is why I'm doing this, and you'll draw on that.
Yeah. And one thing about Dave too is that he's really been instrumental in kind of, I feel like setting up these adventures for us to have as a run club. So we all went to Gorge together. You had lived in Portland for many years. A lot of us had never been to that area. We all went and did the rim to rim to rim together. And so just appreciate, you thinking up these adventures for us to experience as a run club. And that's been really cool. So, okay. I'm Corinne Shalvoy, and I ran my first 100 at Leadville in 2021. I was inspired to run it because I paced Todd in 2019, and that was my first time attending a 100-mile race and spectating it and being part of it. So I think my word for ultra or for Leadville is the word ultra running. To me, I associate Leadville with what ultra running is, because once I crewed and paced Todd at that race, I just remember coming back and being like, this is totally different. If you have never been to or been part of a 100-mile race, it is a very different experience than being at another trail race or even, a 50K or something like that. It's just incredible how invested you get in the person that you're following and helping all day. And what you see out there that other people are going through. So I definitely would kind of associate Leadville with just the entire ultra running kind of as it is. Like it's ultra running to me. It's what started it all. And I have a lot of other mixed and negative and 4-letter words for it as well. But we'll get into that. So yeah. And we're also going to have somebody joining us who's not here right now. He is doing some work, but you'll know him when he comes in. So we'll introduce him when he gets here. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, before we get into kind of some questions here, real quick, we wear shoes in this podcast and talk about our shoes. So we got to do that real quick. What shoes are you wearing, Kyle?
So I'm wearing Nike Wild Horse.
Oh, the OGs.
Yep, the original. These are my first trail shoe, actually. When I first started getting into trail running, I bought these, I think it was 2019. And I bought like several pairs of them because I didn't think shoes could feel this good. And also I'm a big, I like colors. And so Nike shoes always do it for me. And I'm also kind of known for, even though these don't have orange or red, I think orange and red go phenomenally together. So anyone out there listening, if you also like orange and red, I think just
comment on the YouTube.
Let us know that orange and red look beautifully together. So Nike Trail Wild Horse.
Wild Horse 5s, OG.
Hey, and what are you drinking today?
So I'm drinking some Hoplark. I've never had one before. Hoplark sparkling water. And it's a tropical fruit-forward hop experience. It is actually very delicious, very tasty. And I've also, it's very hydrating. I think a dehydration cream set. So like, I think Hoplark would have helped with the dehydration. So
nice. Cheers.
All right, I'm rocking the Topo Ultra Venture 3s. So this is on my long search to find the perfect shoe, which I still have not found. So I've been through Hoka, Brooks, Hoka, almost through the entire Topo lineup. So still on my search. But right now for a hybrid, just where I live, I've got to run a mile out on asphalt to get to the trails and a mile back. And these have been a great, really a great ultra shoe. And so yeah, but like them, not my absolute favorite, but definitely like them.
An honest review. An honest review. And this is why you must tune into the YouTube so that you can see grown men modeling their running shoes, which doesn't happen everywhere. All right. We're moving
What's
over.
Todd got?
I'm up next.
Yeah, there it is.
So these are the North Face Vective Infinite. These are the originals.
Yeah.
I'm wearing these, even though they're old, because figured tonight, talking with friends, doing a lot of reflection on the past. These are past shoes. These are actually the shoe that I ran most of the 2022 Leadville race.
Nice.
So just reminiscent a bit.
Yeah.
Even though they don't match my Petzl headlamp socks. we're having fun. So
I've
I'm
never
all
seen
about it.
Petzl headlamps.
Yeah, I actually got these for free at Leadville.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why
it's
I'm wearing
all
them.
Leadville
Yeah.
attire. And
All
you're
Leadville.
wearing that shirt's pretty cool. That's from the 2019.
2019 race.
Yeah, I like that one.
And a Leadville hat.
How'd you find those shoes, Todd? How'd you come across those?
I don't remember. Is there a story there?
Probably they were the cheapest shoe.
At the outlet?
I think I remember you saying they're like 70% off at North Face store.
They always are. But I'm a huge North Face fan, and I'm wearing North Face again this year.
You had the lime green going on last
I've
year.
been wearing them for several years.
Yeah.
We've got a variety of brands represented here.
Mhm.
Nike, Topo, North Face.
I'm going to repeat with Nike. I've got the Pegasus Trail 3s. This is the exact pair that I wore for almost all of Leadville Trail 100 last year. So a good one. And I am drinking a new special edition, limited edition Hoplark Mexican lager, which is very nice.
Mm-hmm. And it's got a cool artwork.
Yeah,
I like the
beautiful.
artwork a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the
up close.
There's the up close.
Yeah. Hoplark's awesome.
Non-alcoholic, lots of different things. They've got like 0.0 beer, 0.0, and then they've got like the sparkling waters that are really nice. So.
Yeah.
That's what I have. Very delicious.
All right, cool.
Quote Monty Python now for something completely different. I'm wearing retro New Balance 80s running shoes that are true running shoes. They're the shoes I go to work in because I forgot to put on a pair of running shoes. There you go.
You're out.
And
drinking Voodoo Ranger.
Yeah, you're going to go change your shoes when Chris gets here. No, just kidding.
Oh, come on. Man.
You're drinking Voodoo Ranger?
Yeah.
Your go-to, your staple?
If you had running shoes on that you would choose, which ones would you
I'm waiting to buy the shoes that I really like to wear for Run 100, which is going to be the Hoka Tectonics 3.
Nice. Hoka. So another represented brand.
Oh, yeah.
Dave's
All
got
right,
the purple.
Hold on. This needs
Here's
to be
the
a
wild
slow reveal because
Yeah.
I don't think many people know that much
It's at
about
the end of the
these
rainbow,
shoes.
Dave.
Yeah.
Let's see, Dave. What is this?
I got Tarkine Trail Devils. These are the OGs. They're Tarkine's out of Australia. And so, like, legit, I don't even know you can buy these in the States. I think you may be able to now, but every time I ordered a pair, it took like 2 weeks to get here from, Australia. And so this is like my third pair. Anatomic football, something a little bit different, 5 mil drop. So I'm probably going to be running a portion of Leadville in these with some T-Rex running insoles in them. So, yeah.
What's your other shoe for Leadville?
The Mad River, the discontinued
Another
Saucony Mad
brand.
River Trail 2s, which, rest in peace, Saucony, come on now, you got to bring these back.
I know someone that.
Yeah, Jacob and
I'll have to talk to Katie Aswith about if those are ever going to come
The
back.
only person who's worn more pairs than me is Jacob.
Yeah.
But we both ran through I ran through 6 pairs of them.
I think I've shared like 90% of the miles we've run together. You've had those.
Yeah, they're great. And then I'm drinking Groovy non-alcoholic beer out of Wheat Ridge, Colorado.
Oh, Groovy's the brand?
Yeah.
Gruvi?
Yeah, it's good.
Interesting.
Groovy. Yeah.
Sweet.
Very nice. All right, Corinne, what do you got?
Oh, yeah, and we always let Dave time after our runs because Dave brings beverages for the
Dave
Hashtag Dave time.
Hashtag Dave time.
Hashtag Dave time. I am wearing Solomon's. Where are they? There they are. I'm wearing Solomon's because anyone who knows me knows I'm a Solomon girl. Solomon Genesis. I really like this shoe. I really wish I was wearing Courtney's new shoe right now because I want a pair real bad, but I didn't get them yet. So anyways, these are a little bit softer version of the S-Lab Genesis and really like them for daily trails. Very comfortable. Love the way they hold my feet. Wearing my GG socks. Boom, toe socks or no socks. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Okay.
I think I'm going to turn the attention to Mr. Adam Dill over here, and we have coined you.
Oh, yeah, we gave everybody nicknames.
We did give everyone nicknames, so we've coined you today the Mastermind. And so, with all of your experience at the race, I'm going to ask, how has the race changed from your first experience to today?
Through the 12 years, I think I've gotten to see quite a bit of it. And I think I probably got to see it at what I would think was its peak. But I've noticed, in my opinion, the last few years, it kind of seems like it's becoming less and less of what it used to be. And I think if we were to go back in time and ask Ken and Marilee, like, hey, when you guys envisioned this race, you wanted to save this town, you wanted to save this community, this region, everything from Leadville to Twin Lakes. The idea was to get as many people to come there, but they decided to make a 100-mile race because they wanted people to stay there. So that was the entire objective. Let's get people here. Let's get them to stay here. And it just seems like over the last several years, it's really moved away from that. And it's been less inclusive with the team members, the race, the support crews, the crowd, that's why you did all this in the first place. So I've kind of been a little disappointed with that. To me, it's kind of like going to your favorite amusement park as a kid and your favorite ride, and you just kind of see it deteriorate over the years. And that's kind of how I've felt recently with this, is just not heading in the right direction for something that should be permanently iconic.
What would you want to bring back that you appreciated about the earlier years? Like you mentioned it a little bit, but if there's anything you would suggest to, either organizers or if someone ends up buying the race, like what did you really appreciate early on that you would want to have?
And you can't say Anton.
Okay.
Now you have to provide solutions.
So the main solution is the first several years, I thought they did a really good job with logistics. So simple things like just when you come into May Queen, like I still remember them like coning off and taking off one side of the road. And now the last several years, it was just a complete circus. People on both sides, parking the wrong way, people getting trapped, couldn't get in or out. So they just had really, really good traffic control. It was all one direction, coning off one side, so you didn't even need that many people. It wasn't like that big of a logistics thing. Just put the cone, put the tape, run it, super simple. So I think you can improve the May Queen experience with something really easy.
And now, because of that chaos, they're shutting down May Queen.
Yeah,
Right.
so now May Queen's just gone. And I think we kind of heard through most of the people sitting here, everyone ran this race other than Todd because they had experienced it with someone else. And to me, if I was the race director, if I owned this race, I would want to encourage that. I would want as many people to come spectate, to crew, to support, because that's my future customer. Versus like, no, we don't want you here. You're not welcome. Don't come to my town. Don't come to Twin Lakes. Don't come to May Queen. Go sit in Outward Bound by yourself and be quiet. It seemed weird.
So make it more accessible, like
Honest feedback.
figuring out how logistically you can have the party that is Twin Lakes,
Yeah.
and really like celebrating it, making it easier for people to, logistically get to, but encouraging it because it provides a sense of community.
Because in that kind of, with Twin Lakes especially, like Twin Lakes is such, I think, a rare place for any runner to get to experience.
Yeah.
Because it's highly probable that you're going to make it there at least once. And to have the entire, what feels like world lose their mind for you for this extended period. I don't know of any race you can go to in the U.S. and experience that
It's like the Forest Hill.
Coming down off the
Totally
hill.
like that.
Yeah, it's like the
Yeah.
Forest Hill, Western States Forest Hill of Leadville.
But I would say it's more
yeah.
accessible than Western States. A lot more people have the chance to experience Twin Lakes.
Yeah, it's bigger. There's 600 people that run this race every year.
Yeah.
So
Well, paint us a picture for Twin Lakes. Like, describe to us like the magic and energy of what that looks like as runners are coming in, say for like the first time.
I would say imagine a wholesome Mardi Gras. Like you just
Awesome.
I mean, you literally come down the mountain and you come through the check-in station, and then all of a sudden it's just lined on both sides of the road, as tight as they can possibly get, tents side by side by side, all the way through town. It turns, goes towards the forest, runs all the way back up along the lakeside. I mean, you're just running through this sea of people that think you're a god running through.
Probably almost like half a mile long.
Yeah,
at least a quarter mile.
It's incredible. There's very few things that I think a runner would get to experience like that in their lifetime. And the fact that a lot of the runners get to experience it twice is incredible. But just for somebody that might not make the turnaround, like that's going to change you forever, getting to experience that. And I just think it's disappointing to know that that's possibly something that goes away.
Well, we'll see what that looks like this year, but hopefully there's still some magic there for the people. 'Cause I know that for me, that was the place that I wanted my family to be at on the return, and to spend that short amount of time with them, walking back through the town, and could spend a good 15, 20 minutes with the crew stop plus the walk back through town before saying goodbye back to Leadville. So I knew it was an important piece to me. So hopefully there's still some magic there.
And maybe it's important to point out, I guess, why we're talking about this, because there's some rule changes this year.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. You want to break down the rule change for us, Todd, real quick?
Sure. I mean, so in the past, you've been able to park at Twin Lakes, and it's chaos. Sometimes you got to park miles away and walk down the highway to get there. But the benefit of that is just, the epicness of Twin Lakes. That's, it's like Woodstock or something of aid stations, and the vibe that brings to the race. It sounds like that's, Leadville is afraid that's having quite an impact on the community. And so this year they're trying to eliminate parking on the highway there.
Yep.
And at that aid station. And so you can still access Twin Lakes, but you've got to take a shuttle there from outward bound. So logistically, you got to go through some hoops. Makes it a lot harder to bring the tents, coolers, all that kind of stuff. And then just, I mean, to Russ's point, to have family and your support group meet you there for these little moments that are very important to us. There's just more obstacles being instated. So that's Twin Lakes. I think another big one that we started talking about was May Queen. In the past, until I think it was last year, May Queen outbound, honestly, I think was another kind of epic moment in ultra running. You get to May Queen, depending on where you are in the field, but come through that aid station, and it's just a tight tunnel of people because it's a fairly tight road that you're running down. But so you've got people on like both sides as you're running through. It's, dark out sometimes or just getting light out. People are all excited, and to have that kind of energy was really cool as an athlete running through there. And I think even as a spectator, as far as growing the sport, to Adam's point.
Yeah.
And now because of some of the parking issues and stuff, May Queen is no longer open outbound. Last year they tried to do shuttles. It didn't work out very well. So this year it's just closed. There's no crew at May Queen outbound. So that vibe could be gone forever.
Yeah.
But I think from a logistics standpoint, not having crew at May Queen is one of the few aid stations where, I got through there so fast I wasn't even thinking about it, but I don't think it's that big a deal. Twin Lakes is more the thing that they better nail that shuttle system because everybody wants to be at Twin Lakes, and it's a big deal to be there. So hopefully they get it right this year.
I just worry about the people that they need their car. What about the mom with the baby? They're there to support their husband or, someone that's in the race, and you need your diaper bag, you need your food, you need your cooler, you need all this stuff. Like, you're just automatically pushing people out that are going to be able to do the shuttle. Like, they're just gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's a great idea. And it's like, man, there's other ways to do this. And if you limit those people, anyone that's been part of the crew, you notice like the line at the coffee shop is 1 million people deep. So the person that owns that little coffee shop plus that lives in Twin Lakes is making a ton of money. It's awesome for them. The other stores that are selling hot dogs or barbecue, like all those people are the ribbon fries.
Yeah. Ribbon fries.
All of a sudden, if you ask them, it's like, hey, do you want to lose half your income? Do you want to, in the future, do you want to lose 75%? Like, we're really supporting this community still. Like, this was planned from day one.
Yeah.
Not a huge fan of that part.
It's a solid first question, Russ.
No problem. No problem.
Well, yeah, and again, I mean, the proof is going to be in the execution, and we'll see. Maybe we'll have to do a post race
podcast, we're gonna do
and we can
post-mortem on it.
Yeah, we can see how everything went. But Adam, you've had the most crewing experience here, which is maybe why you have such strong opinions in that. So why don't you give your top 3 tips for the crew chiefs out there who are maybe coming out for the first time to support a runner or a friend?
And I think our listeners need to know that Adam is like the ultimate crew chief. You don't even understand the level of crew chiefness. Is what's beyond chief. He's like the crew president. He's not even a chief. He's like on the board. Like, he's the board president of crewing. And that's how, like, I learned about you when I was pacing Todd. And the first thing I learned was like, I was like, Adam, so you've crewed this before? He's like, oh yeah, I've crewed somebody at this race, Leadville 100, like for the last 5 years. Like, oh yeah, I know everything about this race. And so then when I was going to run it, I'm like, Adam, could you be my crew chief? And I'll tell you, he takes it so seriously.
Laws don't matter.
It is the job. It is a professional. So I think you should probably, after this, start a class in how to be a good crew chief. But anyways, to answer the question.
And when we had multiple runners running this and multiple crew chiefs, Adam was the chief of the chiefs.
Yeah. That's right. He managed the other chiefs. He's like, we're going to have a chief meeting, and I'm going to run it and make sure all you chiefs know what you're doing. Yes.
So maybe on the 101 level, you can give some tips for the crew chiefs out there, the new crew chiefs out there.
I think Todd nailed it. I mean, you just have to ignore the law and just do what you got to do. No. But in all seriousness, like to me, the number one thing always is logistics. Like knowing where you're going, how you're going to get there, like how am I getting in, how am I getting out, down to like which way is the car going to face, so we can be on the road as soon as we need to be on the road. So that's a lot of like even when we did Black Canyon the first time going to Arizona sight unseen, it was just studying the road, studying which way we're going to go, and making sure that we had a plan for it. Even if were you with Chris and I too? I mean, even
I've
if we
been
got
with Chris and you, yeah.
105 in a rental car down the road.
I don't know about that. I can neither confirm nor deny.
Getting to places early, you're big on that.
Especially, yeah. So getting there early and just knowing like where is my runner going to roughly be? Are they going to be at the front, the middle of the pack? And ensuring that you're getting there, you're getting set up in time to fully be ready for when they roll in. Because you don't want to be still unloading your gear, figuring things out, and your runner shows up. So logistics is like the number one, and the number two is by getting there early, being set up and prepared, is having a high level of energy and just being positive. You're not stressed, you're not worried, you're ready for the runner, all of your seats out, all their gear sitting there, and so when they show up, you can just they have that confidence that they don't need to worry about anything. You just zip, change them, get them out the door, but you can still be excited. You can still have high energy, and the whole rest of the crew can, just because you're prepared for it all.
Another thing that I remember that I don't think many crew chiefs do is like the little details. So Adam had not only like a changing like station for me, because they knew I might want to actually change like my clothing. So there's like a standing station, but you had things like, it was like, let me clean your glasses. Like, let's make sure we have glass cleaner and, like a glass cleaning wipe, and like these little tiny things that you're like, he's trying, you just really try to make sure that everything is covered.
Yep.
And that's the last thing would be on the list would be like, what are those high value things that your runner might not have thought of? So obviously they have their aid, they've got their shoes, their socks, but seeing how the race develops, how the day develops, do you have ice packs? Do you have something to help warm them up that's just like a bonus for the minute or two that they're there? Mm-hmm. Just any sort of tiny creature comfort in a race that big is, just an emotional boost that can get you through.
Yeah, you must think of the things that like the runners aren't even thinking. Mm-hmm. You're one step ahead just in case.
And hearing how good a care you took care of your 100 miles, it kind of pushes me to, I do 100 miler. Kind of makes me want to do 100 miles.
This is how it starts.
This entire podcast was a sneak attack to get Kyle to want to run 100 miles. Yeah.
50 miles. This is a reverse intervention.
That's awesome.
All right. I'd love to switch gears and chat with Dave a little bit. Dave, we have nicknamed you the Innocent, but at this point, I think you might know a little bit about what you're getting into and what you're getting in for. So tell us a little bit about what you're excited about.
Oh, I mean, to go back to my, my intro, I'm so excited to be here to run this race. I always thought that I could, run a marathon, and then I met these people and I realized I could run a 50K and then a 50 miler. And then, the 100's always been that fruit that, that you're just grabbing for. And so, I don't know, I've seen it done the last 5 years, and I've just had I've had so much fun being a crew member, but I've just yearned to run it. And so, anyway, I've taken so much from all of you guys doing it too, from your grit and finishing it to, Graham's dehydration.
You almost turned me again.
No. And just the smile on your face every time you came through aid station, I was like, this guy, Russ, is loving this race right now. And he's like fully in it.
Faking it till I made
it.
Yeah, it was the goose driver.
The first year watching Todd doing it, and then mostly, with Justin, I've done the last segment with him twice. They were both two very different experiences, and I was like, okay, this is how amped someone could be at this point, and this is how low someone could be at this point. And so I'm just excited to experience it all, to feel all the feels, all the happiness, all the joy, all the suffering. I'm ready. I'm just excited for it.
All right, now you can be modest, but at the same time, you're very fit. You're doing great. So, do you have splits written for a big buckle? What's the goal here?
In typical Dave fashion, I have nothing prepared. In fact, I was like, hey, Russ, can you send me everything you have on how you did? I thought in my head, I would love to look like Russ looked at the end of last year, the way he finished it. And I've always thought you and I have been really close in what we can do. And so I definitely have my eye on this 27 to 28 hour. If I have a good day, if it's cool outside, the weather's great, and maybe go faster than that. And I'm just going to see where the day takes me. I may have some splits, I may not. We'll see. I'll see how it goes.
I think you're just super smart in having observed as much as you have, and then us just recently being with Jacob at High Lonesome, you were with him for 25 miles, right in the middle of when he was struggling the hardest, and going through and just seeing all of that. I think all that's going to it makes it as much of a reality as it can without you doing it. So I think that's huge, and it's just going to be really exciting to see you cross the line. So
yeah, I'm excited,
and I think you're going to run faster than 27.
I do too.
Yeah.
I don't think those first splits, you better not be on pace for 27 now. I think you should be faster than that. I think it'll come pretty easily for you.
Yeah.
You're running well. You're very fit, so that's great. All right, Mr. Todd Dill, we've nicknamed you the veteran of the race with multiple finishes here. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the history of the race for yourself and answer the question, what makes you keep coming back?
So I kind of mentioned it in my intro, but this race has just been special to me since I first came into ultra running. This crew kind of gave me the stoke. But this was the first thing that I really had my eye on, and I just from the beginning knew that I wanted to do Leadville one day. I think part of that is because it's iconic, but also it's kind of our local 100-miler, and I just love those mountains and stuff, so I wanted a part of it. My experience, I got into it in 2019. It was my first 100. And
what had you done? What had you done right before that? Because you need to tell people this is
introduction to ultra running 2019.
Yeah, 2019 for Todd Dill was a big year.
Whereas I think I'm sensing a little bit of humbleness and caution with Dave as he jumps in. I did not take the same approach. I ran my first 50K, my first ultra ever, at the end of April of 2019. Ran my first 50-miler, Silver Rush, in early July of 19, and then 5 weeks later, whatever, ran Leadville. And it, there was no caution there. It was just full on stoke.
We were like, "What are you doing?
I want this," and then I got a coin, and it was like, "All right, let's do this." And honestly, I think sometimes ignorance is bliss. I never had a whole lot of nerves. And I think a lot of that was because of the unknown. I mean, there were definitely some lows, especially that first year, but the highs, I think, still far outweighed them. That race really just cemented Leadville and kind of this crew and how cool 100-mile races can be to me. I think my big takeaway from that was not so much about my race, but was this feeling of community and this immense sense of care that I felt from my friends and stuff, that they would invest all this time and effort in me and really kind of a silly goal. And seemingly they were as excited, if not more excited about it than I was. So that was just really cool, and kind of, it also showed me what kind of people I get to associate myself with. But that was my first experience. After that, I couldn't get enough. Came back in 2021 to pace and crew Corinne, had a blast there. 2022 came back and ran it again for myself. That time a lot more prepared, had a few more races under my belt, had the previous experience at Leadville, and had a pretty good day
Not
that day.
hours off.
About a 3.5 hour PR.
Yeah. What did you run? Tell everybody what you ran.
I ran sub 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1947.
That's not zone one.
Not zone one.
Not so good.
Well,
And that was
if you hadn't taken that leap and done that in 2019, and say when you get a coin, you're allowed to defer to the following year. If you deferred to 2020, it would have skipped. You would have meant. I mean, your whole trajectory would have been totally different.
It's true.
And yeah, I mean, just that leap of faith led to your ability to continue to succeed at this race.
Right. And I think in 2022, while like running wise, it was a better race. It even like the happy meter. I talked about my word being happy. I still can't believe like running 100 miles. Most people would think we're insane. Other than people listening to this probably get it. Like how you can be happy running a 100-mile race, but I can genuinely say I was happy like the entire day. Yeah, there were low spots. It didn't go perfectly, but like finishing a race and looking back on it with nothing but fondness, and like that was pretty cool. So yeah, I'm obviously hooked. I was supposed to run it last year, dealt with some injuries, so had to postpone to this year, and we're racing here again in 2 weeks.
Yeah. In 2022, you were like 15th male?
I was 12th male, 13th overall.
12th male, 13th
Claire Gallagher.
Claire. Crazy Claire. He's wild. Yeah, but that's still super impressive at that race. And I think just thinking about like, just going back to kind of the year that you paced and crewed me, I want to know, because I was very bullish going into the race. This is what I want to run. This is where I want to be. And I just am genuinely curious if you were there sitting in the crew meeting going, oh boy, Corinne, you don't know what you're about to get into. And I don't think it's going to happen, because I feel like it's different after you've done it and like, you know what's coming. So yeah.
Not at all, honestly, because I think, running in general, but especially 100 miles, so much of it is mental. Mm-hmm. And if you believe that you can do something, your odds of doing it are vastly increased.
Yeah.
And to your detriment, likewise. I mean, if you have your reservations and don't think you're capable of something, you're going in with your head down, your odds of success are not very good. So, I mean, no, I was pumped to hear that you were confident and had a plan, and on the right day, it came together.
It may have. But so this year, just curious, kind of like, what are your goals for it? A handful of the people that are racing on the men's side. So like, what do you hope to be able to do this year? If you want to divulge to all of your competitors.
No, I'm not competing for the win or anything even close to that. So I've dealt with some injuries and personal stuff over the past year. And so quick background, I'm about 12 or 10 weeks right now into real training, what I would consider getting fit, getting confident. So I hope to have a good race, but that's probably for me something like sub 20 again. Mm-hmm. And that's not going to be in contention. But
I think, and we've talked about this a number of times, but I think the wild card this year that may be slightly different than at least the last couple is the amount of people going for the course record. And I think that inevitably will lead to blow-ups and a lot of people maybe not completing the race, especially if they go off course record pace, or if they truly blow up and have to stop. So it may end up being to your benefit to have that happen in front of you.
Stay smart, run your own race.
That's it. Yeah.
So you're the one in this room with the most experience at the race. What is your thought on whether or not you think that Matt Carpenter's record is breakable? Do you think it could happen? Do you think that there's anyone in the field this year that we know of that might be able to do that this year?
So I absolutely think it's breakable.
Do you?
I think, from the little bit that I know about the evolution of the course over the last few years, I would actually put Rob Krar's race in 2018 on that same level as Matt Carpenter's. So I think Rob has already showed that it's possible. And I mean, we're seeing it in every race. The sport is just being elevated like weekly. So yes, I absolutely think it's beatable. It's going to take the right athlete. I mean, it's stood for a long time for a reason, but there's some of those athletes around right now. I mean, obviously you get a Jim Walmsley or someone like that in there. I think, yeah, Jim, Killian for sure. There's been some talk about maybe Zach running this year. Zach is probably a guy that could do it. People in the race this year, nothing against the athletes. I respect them all, but I'm not certain of the people that I'm aware of that are in it. Your start lists aren't published.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely possible. I wouldn't bet on it based on the people that I know. I think Adrian, from what I know, is still the person to beat in my mind. Adrian McDonald, 2-time winner, and just with his course knowledge and experience, and he's run it very successfully twice. So I think he could get close, especially if he's getting pushed. But it's a tough mark.
For sure. Yeah, and then going back to kind of the evolution of the race over the years, with you talking about that, Adam, that's one thing that came to mind when Todd was just talking about the field is that this is one of the races where we don't know who's running it until the very end, and that's something that I think is just like gonna have to change. I mean, they are gonna put it on Fantasy Free Trail, and I was asking Liam, how's Travis getting this information? And apparently, he'll get it right before from the race organization. And so maybe we'll see it on Free Trail Fantasy, but it's not going to be until the last minute, which is very interesting. And I think, I don't know, I guess it's kind of unique and it's kind of cool, but I've been like scrolling Strava, just looking at who's been on Hope Pass the last few weeks, because more and more everybody that is wanting to compete in these is training on the course.
I don't think it's either unique or cool. I think it's lazy by the race crew.
More hot takes.
Yeah.
And honestly, it makes it harder to be a fan of the sport.
Absolutely.
It's an easy thing for the race to do to help promote like being a fan of the sport on that end of it.
And it would bring a lot more media, because there could be a lot of pre-race interviews, prediction shows, things about storylines about the people that are running ahead of it that aren't happening today because of that.
A lot of things that other races are doing that Leadville isn't.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Awesome. Let's move to Mr. Kyle Van Dusen here, who we have nicknamed the Neophyte.
The Neophyte. Dave, thank you.
See you, buddy.
Dave.
Dave's gonna crush it at Leadville this year. Everybody give Dave some luck, good luck in the comments. But great to see you, Dave. Okay.
Thanks, Dave. So, Kyle, I know from firsthand experience that you are a great pacer. So, give us some tips for a first-time pacer.
Well, that's very kind you say, a great pacer. So, yeah, I had the pleasure and honor of pacing Russ to Russ's 100-mile finish. A couple of tips I think that are really important are, I think going into it, I'm an anxious person. And so something that helped alleviate that is like we had a meeting race like a week or so before. And I also think I kind of treated that pacing section for me as a race for myself. So day before, I was really taking care of myself, trying to get a good night's sleep, making sure I was hydrating, because you are at elevation at Leadville. So super important to stay hydrated. Take care of your body.
Where were you last year, man? I needed to hear that before.
Can you show Graham any love? Come on.
Yeah, and get the calories in as well. Like you want to be able to take care of your runner, and so you want to be able to have already taken care of yourself, and not really think about yourself. When your runner comes into the aid station, we met at Twin Lakes inbound, and so I really wanted to just be fully attentive to Russ. I didn't want to have any body issues. Didn't want to be like, oh, I'm really thirsty, I'm hungry, I have to go to the bathroom. So that's kind of one thing. It's like simple things, but like the stoke is real at Twin Lakes. There's a lot of excitement. You have a lot of friends there. You see people come through. Russ's family was there, so like talking to them. And then also I'd say, like, as soon as your runner comes in and as soon as you hit the trail with them, because it's going to be, the crew's going to take care of him. And as you take off, I think it's important to talk to your runner, kind of gauge where they're at. Like, how was the previous section? Like, the previous section for Russ was up and over Hope Pass twice. And so I think he was feeling really good at that point, but also tired. And I think also reading the vibe of the runner is really important. So if they want to talk, let them talk. If they want you to sing, like, sing a song. Like, and if they also want to be quiet too, like, if Russ is like, hey, I just want some quiet right now, you're talking, you're like, just kind of read their vibe of what they're going through, right? I think that's really important as well. And then just to really encourage your runner too. Encourage them. Russ also said, like, I don't have a lot of energy, so you encourage every runner out here. So that was something that I was doing, is encouraging every runner that passed us, which during that stretch, there weren't really a whole lot. We were passing a lot because Russ was a man on a mission, eating these gels that he'll talk about later. And then also, I think it's important to kind of know the section as well, to know where the climbs are going to be, where the downs are going to be, and then just kind of letting them know, like, hey, this is going to be, a 2-mile uphill. It's power hiking, totally okay, but if you can shuffle, let's shuffle. And finally, this is probably an easy one, like a lot of the veterans here, but is really to make sure that they're eating and staying kind of on their predetermined plan. And if that shifts, kind of learn what gels are working, because I don't think Russ had planned on consuming this many gels that he had consumed during that, and it still gives me chills at my spine. This particular gel he consumed, but I think setting like a timer, because the time goes by so quick. You think you're going to be out there, and just taking care of them and watching them, and just being in awe too. Like I said, inspired at the start, like being in awe of what Russ was doing. So really, I think those are some of the tips that I would say for the first time new pacer is really important.
So describe to us kind of some of because Russ was very deliberate in pacing of his race. Like, he was like, did not want to go out too fast, and so he was very conservative. And like you said, that resulted in you catching people, which is awesome. Did you observe anything from a pacing standpoint as you guys were passing, other runners? Like, just kind of what were your observations being part of that middle back of pack kind of vibe?
Yeah, one thing I noticed is a lot of them, they did have, they were kind of excited and feeling kind of like uplifted. I think making the cutoff of coming back into Twin Lakes, I think that kind of shows that you can finish, like you're there to finish. So a lot of them were encouraged, but a lot of the people weren't really talking a whole lot. Some of the people out there chose not to have a pacer. Like, we had asked a lady that was out there, was like, hey, if you can latch on, like, come run with us, because she was out there by herself, chose not to have a pacer. Yeah. Which I think is absolutely insane. It was, middle of the night or late. So
don't say that. Graham's about to run a race where he can't have a pacer.
True. Yeah. And I mean,
it's a crossing guard.
Yeah, all the more power to people that can do that. But yeah, there was kind of a high, but then as we got like at the start, but kind of as we got further away from Twin Lakes and closer, which one is it? Outward bound, yeah. Because there's one aid station, no crews there. But as we got closer, it kind of seemed like people quieted down a little more. I think just being tired and having that boost through Twin Lakes had kind of worn off, like some of the adrenaline they had gotten. So I think if you are pacing that specific section, kind of expect that, like, boost early on for a couple miles, and then some of that energy may go away. So figure out like how to keep encouraging your runner. Talk about sing if they want you to sing, or just kind of keep pushing.
Yes, he wants you to sing. This keeps coming up.
He didn't want me to sing.
It sounds like maybe he wanted to sing, but he didn't give you the opportunity.
I could just see myself, like, it would be a good story, like other pacers and runners, like this guy was singing for like 10 miles in this section. Like, what is going on?
Beautiful voice.
I knew these people were crazy. So, so yeah.
So did you enjoy the experience? Like, I know, yeah, I mean, there's a reason people pick the Pacers they do. And I know that, Russ probably felt that you were going to bring all that positive energy and would just be a really solid Pacers. So, like, do you want to do it again? Did you enjoy it? It seems like you enjoyed it, and he said you did an amazing job. So
yeah, it was a huge honor and a pleasure to be asked by Russ to be able to pace him. I think it was also taking a chance to a certain extent because I had never paced before, and it's his first 100 miler, and that kind of shows like Russ too. Of like we've done a lot of runs together. But yeah, I really loved it. I learned a lot of people can do more than what you think you can, and that's something that I struggle with is like limiting myself mentally. So I love being with this group because it's so encouraging and really pushing you. But pacing is awesome. It's like a super fun experience. As we can attest, we call pace here. You learn a lot about the individual that you're pacing, and then just the human spirit in general to see these people like run 100 miles, which is a freaking long way. Like, like a 5K is long, like all these distances. And then to see people take this on and to shoot their shot 100 miles is like really inspiring to me to see people do this. And then just, as you mentioned, family, like out on the trail, you're encouraging people, they're encouraging you, talking to them, even sharing, hey, do you want what's going on in your cramp? Like, here's some pickle juice, or here, I have a salt pill for you. Because sometimes people forget stuff out there. A guy had forgotten his raincoat, so somebody was sharing a raincoat with him. So yeah, it's a super pleasurable experience, and I'd recommend anybody who is asked to pace their friend, or even another person. Like we see it a lot with our run group. Of like, hey, I have a friend. Could you guys pace them there? I think. Take it on. Don't be anxious. You'll get through it. You'll learn a lot. You'll have fun and be able to share in that. Finishing line experience with Russ was like super emotional. Like brought tears to my eyes to see him finish it. Like because it is a huge like within our group. It can kind of be. I think we limit like the way we talk about stuff. They're like, oh, it's just a 50K. Like 50K is a lot sometimes because everybody's doing like we have a super talented group and people that are willing to be courageous and shoot their shot. So just to see somebody that and love, like to see them finish it is really emotional and just inspiring. So
yeah, that's making me think that there should be like support groups of pacers. Or not necessarily support groups, but there should be like get-togethers of like. Tell me about your pacer experience. What was it like to pace so-and-so? What was it like to pace so-and-so? Because there's probably just so many.
Because I know Graham's experience pacing you that one stretch of you maybe saying some mean words to him. Or asking to take a nap, and Graham saying, we cannot take a nap. So that was a very different experience from what I had to add with Russ.
There's a lot of, but there are definitely things that it's just you and your pace, you and your runner experiencing that.
Yeah.
And those are memories, those are things that only you guys experience together that really are hugely memorable. And well, good job.
Thank you.
Glad you enjoyed it. I'm sure we're going to get you run 100 miles at some point in time. Never thought I would do it either, but hence it does happen. All right, so we're going to shift to Graham. And Russ has had to leave because he has a flooding issue at home. So we will we will either follow up to get his story and add it in at the end here. But we're going to go over to my husband, who I have nicknamed the Fruitless.
Why is your nickname the Fruitless, Graham?
The Fruitless, because I put all the work in, got none of the glory.
Tell us about your history with the race. Or your experience with the race.
Yeah, I'm just going back to history. The first time I was going to pace somebody was a guy named Gavin Coombs back in 2018. I think it was the year that Rob Carr won and finished in the light. Yeah, yes, we were there for that, which was really a neat experience. I did not get to pace that year because Gavin had injury issue pop up and he couldn't continue. So then I crewed and paced you in 2021, which was a great experience. And we had an awesome time, except for that 5-minute stretch where you wanted to go to sleep and I had to tuck you out of it and I got yelled at.
You mean that 5-hour stretch? Go to sleep.
That's it. But it was good overall.
I mean, you did carry me across, like after the finish line, you did carry me down the sidewalk. That's a pretty memorable thing.
I did. Yep. Yeah, that's right.
My feet were not.
I think part of maybe posting a picture of your foot.
Oh no!
I don't know if anybody's. In fact, that might be illegal in some places.
I think it shows the pain that you were experiencing just with your push. I know, like your feet, but
people are going to have to sponsor or pay for this podcast in order to see your foot face.
You may have lost all sponsorship forever. So last year was my first year running. I attempted one other 100-miler, Javelina, and actually DNF'd Javelina. So there was a big push last year to try to do well at this race, at least to finish it. And one of the things that I experienced at Javelina that was so challenging was it being mid-90s. I'd never done a sweat test. I had no real idea. But in these long, hot races, I kept throwing up. And I'd throw up and throw up and throw up. And sometimes I'd be able to come through it, and sometimes I wasn't, which was the case of Javelina. So this last year, of course, at Leadville, it's scorching hot for Leadville. It's like in the low 80s, which is scorching hot for Leadville. So that climb up Hope Pass was very, very hot. It was very, very challenging. And then the return climb, it wasn't just me starting to throw up. It was a bunch of people I was around. So really experienced kind of the same issue, which was, I think, a mixture of dehydration and being off from an electrolytes balance standpoint. But up until that point, I was really happy with how I was running it. I felt like I was consistent. I was close to splits. May have been a few minutes slow, but not really too much. And I felt like coming down Hope Pass, even though I was throwing up, I wasn't really kind of in the spot where sometimes I get to where I just cannot continue. So I kind of dipped in the stream crossing there, which seemed to kind of bring me back to life. And I almost feel like that gave me kind of a little bit of a false sense of like, oh, I'm fine. I got through it. And so got to Twin Lakes inbounds at mile 62. And I was like, I've thrown up, but now I'm feeling better. So let's go. And so I was like, let's, truck up to Elbert. Let's not take our time. Let's really move fast. And it was still very warm. And I think that part was a mistake. I think not spending enough time Twin Lakes, really getting cool, really getting enough hydration, really was to my detriment. And then my race kind of fell apart between Pipeline and Outward Bound. I got to the point where sitting in the medical tent, the medical people were very highly suggesting I not continue. But I think up until that point, I was really enjoying it. The Twin Lakes aid station is so cool. I mean, God, it's just both ways, so neat. You almost feel like kind of like a celebrity while you're running, where everybody's cheering for you, and that's such an exciting feeling. And I kind of carried that for a while. And then, all the aid stations are done very, very well. You feel like you're very well taken care of by your crew. But even if you really didn't have crew, I mean, the aid stations are so robust. You could probably do that race without a crew and make it and be fine. So I'm excited to go back sometime in the future and finish it. It's a race that I know that I can finish in the future. But yeah, I have very fun memories overall.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, I mean, we've talked about it and your experience with 100-milers, and just, I think everybody is different, and there are people that want to just do whatever they can to finish 100 miles, and I don't know that that's your style, and I think that that's okay. Like, you like to compete and you like to run hard, and sometimes that isn't going to work out, and like, you're okay with that, but you would rather do that and put yourself in it than just be super conservative just for the sake of getting it done. Maybe that's shifted a little bit over the years of, you trying these hundreds, but I don't know. I think it's just, not everybody's the same. Not everybody has the same goals, and not everybody is, just wanting to do this just to complete it. So, I mean, I appreciate that you're like, that's not how I want to race.
It's very true. I mean, even going into Run Rabbit, I think, thinking through it a little bit more conservatively, and I'm running Run Rabbit Run 100 this year, but I know when that gun goes off, I'm not going to be super conservative. That's just not how I'm going to do it. And if I end up DNFing it, all right, well, there's always next year. I mean, I'm just going to keep showing up, and it's going to stick eventually. So I think to your point, there are a lot of people who just want to finish, and I have the utmost respect for that. That's just not how I want to do it. And yeah, I mean, I'm just going to keep lining up and see what happens.
Yeah. And I do know, because I came across somebody on Instagram who I believe has attempted the 100-miler 9 times and only finished once. So there are other people that you have a few more to try before you're not the only one that hasn't finished one. And I know that I know you want to buckle, but I also know that you want to run a solid race and you want to feel like you competed.
I feel
and
like
hopefully your electrolyte issue is now under control, because this is just something for listeners to know that in 100-mile races, if there's any little thing that you haven't figured out about yourself, it will emerge 13, 15, 18 hours into the race. And it might not be a major thing that I feel like you've always been undersalted a little bit and under fueled from a total ounces, fluid ounces of hydration a little bit. It's not like you're not doing the right things, but it's the accumulation of them over 14, 15 hours that eventually then hit this combined with your effort level that result in the big time issues. So hopefully getting that figured out,
Yeah, and I mean, I got the sweat test, sweat composition test, which was proved to be very interesting. And then the most interesting thing was finding out that above 80 degrees, I sweat 40 ounces an hour. So finding that stuff out has been really critical. It's a lot. So, I mean, I think the final thing I'll say is Jim Walmsley lined up at Western States, 2 times and didn't get it done. Then he won the 3rd time. So I've got high hopes for Run Rabbit Run for me.
3rd time's the charm.
3rd time's the charm.
I mean, we talked about this, but would you have changed anything about your race?
I would have drank more.
Okay. Obviously.
No, I think from a pacing so that's not true. I think I probably should have been a bit more conservative coming out of Twin Lakes to make sure I kind of gut checked to make sure I was actually okay, stopped throwing up and all that type of thing.
Yeah.
I think I was kind of in the moment with you talking, all wound up from Twin Lakes. And I think that's good advice to anybody is make sure as you leave Twin Lakes, either direction, you don't leave there with so much adrenaline, you just let it rip. Even at mile 62, it can still screw you up. So I think just taking a deep breath as you get out of there and kind of taking the moment and then go, okay, back to racing and be thinking about it, I think is an important lesson for me.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for
that
Graham?
sweat test, what are you kind of doing different in Run Rabbit? What did you learn and what are you going to do for this race?
Yeah, so I sweat 1,200 milligrams of salt an hour, which is, it's not super salty, but it's a pretty salty side of sweating. So for Run Rabbit, it starts at 1 p.m. There is basically a climb directly out of the Steamboat Ski Resort, and then you get to a flat spot, and then you drop in the Fish Creek, and then a climb out of Fish Creek. So on those 2 climbs specifically, instead of what I was doing before, I was carrying 2 bottles. This time, very simply, I'm just going to carry 3. Because if I can drink all 3, I should stay on track from a hydration standpoint. By the time I get to the next aid station above Fish Creek, I should be at the point where it's starting to get dark and cool. I shouldn't have to worry about it so much. Because you get down to 60 degrees, 2 bottles an hour is going to absolutely be enough. So I think that 3rd bottle is really the only thing that I'm going to change. I'm going to carry salt pills. But typically, I think I get to the point where I'm underhydrated and then get almost oversalted, and I think that's where the throwing up comes in. So I'm just going to work on staying hydrated in the appropriate way when it's warm, and then I'm just going to quit thinking about it. And if I need to, if I start to have issues again, maybe I'll kind of re-engage with it. But I think once it gets dark, I'm not going to be too concerned.
You planning on nutrition in the bottles or just water?
I'm going to do scratch, which I think,
Hydration.
scratch hydration, which I think is about 350 milligrams per bottle. So if I drink 3 of them in an hour, I should be right on with what I saw in that hour.
Yeah, not really calories. Your calories will come from gels more. Right.
Yep.
So you said 1,200 milligrams per hour, but I think you meant per liter.
You're right. I did.
So in 2 500 milliliter flasks, there's 600 milligrams of sodium in each one of those.
Yep.
Right. Which is a decent amount. That's more than some, normal hydration mixes will have in them. So, yeah.
I don't think normal makes hydration.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Super. Oh, man. All right. So we have a couple more interviews. Me and Chris, who's on his way. But while you guys are here, I want to make sure that we talk a little bit just about, is there anybody that you know of in the ultra running community that you would like to see run Leadville? And why? Because there's a few that I can think of, but this is not a race. It's gaining more. I feel like every year there's a handful of people that show up, and there's a sharp end, and there are definitely some pros. But there are some people that haven't run this course that I think would be cool to see them on. So what do you guys think?
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, the obvious one is I want to see Courtney run her home course. And mainly, I want it because of the accessibility. I think to be able to see such an elite runner run so much of the course, it's kind of like, getting to see Michael Jordan play or getting to see
sitting courtside.
Yeah. There's such few and rare opportunities in your lifetime to ever get that. Like, I would love to see Courtney in Leadville. And then honestly, my other literal top one that I was thinking about ahead of time when you asked it is this dude, Graham. I would love to see Graham back at Leadville and just be a part of that and just come and crush a revenge tour. Yeah. That would be the coolest race in the entire world for me.
Yeah. Totally.
So if you ever want to do the revenge tour,
I'm thinking of doing a Leadville Javelina back to back maybe next year.
You got at least one guy here, so
I love it.
The literal revenge tour, both of the races in the same year. Wow.
I like it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I think for me, the person I'd like to see run is Jim Walmsley. Yeah. I think he would slay. I think he probably has the ability to break the course record. I think he could do it in a pretty commanding way. He's an exciting person to watch. That's what I'd like to see. And I think there are definitely others out there who could break it. I just think he'd be the most exciting to do it. Yeah. Especially if he talks some shit beforehand. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the obvious two.
Yeah.
Two of the best in the sport currently. I think others, I mentioned Killian earlier. I still, he's got the leg speed, but also the mountain side. Zach, maybe no longer a Colorado boy, but it feels kind of a little bit like a hometown hero still to me, especially being from the Springs. Rachel Drake. I think there's several people that.
Yeah. Got one more just because you're top of mind.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Sha'Carri Richardson. I think she'd just tear it up.
Yeah. Okay. So along those lines, we don't see that many. It just made me think we don't see that many international runners at Leadville.
At the top.
Yeah.
I think it does attract international.
Correct, but international pros.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So along those lines, I don't know. Maybe Kipchoge wins a gold this year, third time, and then he transitions to ultra running.
I love it.
And Leadville's a pretty Kipchoge-ish.
He lives at 8,000 feet.
Of course. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think he should do it, and they'll make a documentary or 8 about it.
I love it.
Yeah, and then let's see. I think women-wise, on the female side too. Camille's attempted it, hasn't she? I think she has. I can't remember, but I think maybe she has.
I don't know if she's lined up. I know she's been
on the list.
On the list.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you're right. She'd be an interesting one.
She'd be interesting. I think Leah'd do really well at this race.
I do too. Yeah, I think she's got that good mix of mountain and road.
And the high altitude, she's, you know, in Salt Lake and kind of, so those are kind of some of the ladies that come to mind.
Now I'd like to see Rod Farvard do it after his Western performance.
Would you?
We all just want to see him run again.
Seriously, let's see him throw that
I don't care
again.
where it is. Let's see it.
Yeah, cool. Anybody that comes to mind for you, Kyle?
I mean, a lot of the people mentioned, but Corinne, I'd like to see you take it on again to have a more love, you know, relationship with the course, because I know that you're kind of traumatized by it, but I see you've come back, and I know you have some plans in the future about, you know, possibly some 100-miler. So I think just
you gave away my nickname. My nickname is the Traumatized. Because literally that's what I was after the Leadville 100.
Well, that's giving me.
All right.
That was the segue.
Thanks.
Good
segue. Okay, so what do you want to know?
Do you want me to just
There's only 2 questions on here for me, so we can just go however you want. And anybody can ask questions.
Do you think you could possibly run slower the last section than you ran last time?
Oh my God, you're so witty. That's not a question that's written down. Okay, so real quickly, my experience with Leadville is that I decided to run it as my first 100, which was the first mistake. No, I'm just kidding. But I was like, I can do it. I grew up in Uray. I grew up at 7,700 feet. I can do high altitude. It's somewhat runnable. I can do that too. I was a little bit naive about, I think, what I was going to experience, but at the same time, I don't know if I would change how I ran the race. I went out in the top 10 or so, probably a bit too fast, but I didn't feel bad. I was in control. I felt pretty good. And then I got to Twin Lakes outbound and getting ready to go over Hope Pass. I had been wearing a shoe that I hadn't worn that much, which was a problem. I changed.
It wasn't even a pair of shoes.
What? What do you mean?
Remember what you did?
Well, I lost the insole on one of them.
You had 2 different colors.
Oh.
You mixed them.
It wasn't the same. It was, I had 2 colors of the same shoe, 2 different colors. So you're saying that was also a mistake?
No, I'm not saying it was a mistake.
I thought that was cool. I thought that was cool. And then I changed into my trusty S Lab Ultra 3s to go over Hope Pass. Hope Pass was fine on the way out, but on the way back, it was really rough. It was just, you get to Winfield, and now you used to be able to have a pacer starting at Winfield. So that's one big change, is that the year I paced you, we started at Winfield.
And you're the only person in our club to pace over
Hope Pass. Yeah.
And the only person that I know.
I'm also part of the club, and I've paced Hope Pass.
You paced over that, yeah.
That was before we were clubs. So.
You're the only one that I know of who went the wrong way out of Winfield with your run.
I did get Todd lost on the way out, right, like immediately as I started pacing, I got him lost, and we went, and you're like, well, I haven't seen a flag in a little while.
Cross that creek.
Yeah, but coming back over, let's see, I would just say that I remember when I was going over Hope Pass, I was trying to keep it under control, and I remember starting to feel the fatigue and the wear.
You left me a voicemail from the top.
I did.
And saying you were slowing down and you were getting very tired.
Yes, and I had kind of like slipped on some rocks. I actually met back up with Justin, and he and I were running together, and I had there were a couple of big rocks, and I slipped on a rock and kind of hit the side of my leg, and I was thinking to myself, my legs are not there very much. So you get into Winfield, now you do not see crew. I will say they're very good about one-on-one, basically the concierge service. Yeah. It's like the Hard Rock equivalent. I mean, observing Hard Rock for the last couple of years, they do this very well. You get into a Hard Rock aid station, there's one person who is dedicated to you, and they stay there with you and give you everything you want until you leave. And they did that at Winfield, and I had somebody helping me, get mashed potatoes and all of this. And I think it is kind of beneficial in that you don't have an opportunity to quit because you don't have any crew there now. But I got back out. I got out and I started going back over Hope Pass, and then the backside of Hope Pass. Everybody that's run it or been on it knows it's really dang steep. There are just some sections that are just really brutally steep, and it's usually hot. So I got back to Twin Lakes, and basically when I got into Twin Lakes, I had a complete and utter meltdown of all meltdowns. I
don't know if it's a meltdown at all.
I don't know. I broke down pretty good.
You did, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you weren't like picking you off the ground.
Well, yeah, that's
it was still within the realm of racing.
Okay, I just knew it, but I just, all the emotions came out. I started crying. My dad was there, like it was, and it was a little bit like one of those things where like you don't realize that you've been holding this in, and then all of a sudden it just comes out. And I think it was the unknown of, okay, this is unknown territory. This is all new. You've never experienced this before. Now you got to go run another 40 miles.
What was your longest distance you've run prior to that?
100K.
Yeah. So basically, that's what you're saying. To Twin Lakes.
To Twin Lakes is about 100K. Yeah.
That's 62 hours less. Yeah.
Yeah, everything past that, and a little bit of just that daunting of, they say don't think about how much you have left, but that you have 40 miles left. It's like, it's not like you can't. So to redirect yourself in that moment of when you're emotional and everything is difficult. And then I just started having foot issues, and I stopped eating, and Todd carried my pack because Leadville is the only race we know of that you can mule in. So he literally carried my pack. I tried to keep eating, and everybody else carried my pack. Todd set a great precedent of carrying Corinne's pack for the rest of the race. But yeah, we ran some. We ran some. I mean, I didn't do horrible during that section.
Twin Lakes, you had a moment. It can be very emotional coming in there. You're by yourself for so long.
Yeah.
It's so hard. You realize how long of a day this can be.
Mm-hmm.
But then it felt like you were rejuvenated, kind of leaving there, and you were moving pretty well.
I was doing okay. But then we got into Outward Bound, and I remember observing, I think it was the Rob Carr year we were there. We actually saw like Kat Bradley at that aid station.
And Magda
Boulet, they were both racing. We saw Kat take a good amount of time at Outward Bound, and definitely like have to have like a conversation with someone, there was stuff going on, and what mile are you at Outward Bound? 78. Yeah. So, I don't know. I put on some warm clothes because I was starting to move slower. Adam gave me some coffee, and I was like, oh man, that tastes good. It tastes so good. This is what he's talking about with like the high value things, like, just a warm cup of coffee. And I was determined to keep going. So then I picked Russ up, and we went over Powerline together. And that's when I really started slowing down and just didn't have the energy, didn't have the legs, had to pee seemed like every 2 minutes. I don't know if that was an electrolyte issue, altitude, combination of the two, probably a lot of things, probably my body just shutting down too. But if anybody knows about this phenomenon, let us know. We went up the Powerline climb, and I was literally going glow stick to glow stick, and they're about 50 yards apart from one another. So Russ would be like, that glow stick, and then you can rest for 5 seconds. That glow stick, and then you can rest for 5 seconds. So this is like the kind of thing that your really good friends do for you, and be like, oh, that looks like a really good rock to pee on. Go ahead, Corinne. You let me hold your back for the 18th time while you go pee. So I don't know. I just was determined to finish the race. Like I said beforehand to myself that I was going to finish it no matter what. And it never did cross my mind to drop out of it. I got to Makemean 2.5 hours later than I was supposed to.
Yep.
You guys started running back up the trail to find me. But at that point, my feet I had some plantar fasciitis before in the couple months before the race, and it had really flared up. So it was okay coming down. I was really looking forward to coming down after Powerline because you get on some smooth road. And then you take a turn onto a little bit of a technical rocky single track. A lot of bit of technical. It's gnarly. It's a short section. But I remember literally taking the turn from the smooth road, going onto that and taking one step and just like screaming because my foot hurts so bad when I stepped down on the rock. And so that section, I was hobbling and just barely moving across it. And Graham was supposed to pace me the last 13 miles. So you ran up the trail to try to find me because you wondered what the heck was going on. And I got into May Queen, and I spent a little bit of time there.
But not very much.
But not very much. And partly inspired by the fact, and I know, like I knew from pacing you, that sometimes when you get to the end of these races, like you just don't want to stay. You just want to keep going. You just want to get it done. And
sitting in a chair
doesn't really help it. So we left together, and I was using my poles. I was barely moving. I mean, I was running 20-minute miles.
So I would say for the first third of the lake, Turquoise Lake, you were moving. Okay, we were still moving. You were moving at a pretty brisk walk. And the middle third, you were not moving very quickly. That's when you were talking about maybe taking a nap, but it was too cold, so I wasn't wanting to let you stop. That was the part that you were really slow through. And then we started to see the sun start to kind of peak out towards, as we started to kind of get to the end of the lake, and then you started moving better again.
But then we had to go down the little mini power line.
You struggled with mini
power line. Oh my God, I screamed out loud.
You did.
Because I was
scared the downhills are so hard that far.
For sure. You scared the heck out of the guy in front of us. We were kind of going down, and then you screamed loud, and he jumped. And he was like, oh!
Because my foot hurt so bad when I stepped on the rocks again. And so, and then I started doing what you should never do in a 100-mile race, and thinking about what pace I was going and how much longer I was going to be out there because of the pace I was going.
Which I've been doing for the last 2.5 hours.
Well, Graham's going, God damn, what did I sign up for? But yeah, when you start to think about the fact that like, oh, this 10 miles is going to take me hours at the pace that I am going, it just starts to completely mess with your mind of like, I'm going to be out here for another 5 hours. That's a really long time. And so, I don't know.
You just ground your way through it. That's it. That's what you did. You got it done.
I did, but I also like scared my father because he was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And your mom they had been waiting. They were, worried about what was going on. But yeah, I'll never forget like running the last, running that last like mile into town. And when you you finish on a red carpet, you get to run on the red carpet. I was able to like kind of just barely hobble across the line, and it was super emotional. But I am proud that I finished it. That being said, the race wrecked me for a long time. It wrecked me for months physically afterwards. And I have also had the experience now at Run Rabbit where I've gotten to a 50-mile mark and had similar foot issues and decided I'm going to save it for another day, and was able to race a couple months later and have a really good 50-mile race. And sometimes I think that's the right decision. So,
and 2 months after that, have a knockout Black Canyon 100K. I mean, you saved probably both of those races by pulling yourself out of Run Rabbit.
Yeah. So 27 hours something. I did get a buckle, but it's not the big one. I think I was 20th place. And just to put it in perspective, I think at one point I was running in third.
You were definitely running in third, right around Twin Lakes. Outbound.
So still figuring out 100-mile distance. Not sure. Going to try again at Javelina. We'll see. And yeah, that was my experience. I think that's a lot of people's Leadville experience. I know a lot of people, and particularly women, who have had very, very difficult Leadvilles.
I know a lot of people in general.
Yeah.
Have very difficult. It looks like a race you should be able to just knock out, and then lo and behold, you get halfway in, and all your race notes back.
Yeah.
What's the finisher rate at Leadville?
Oh, it is
45%.
It is. I think it's under 50.
I think it was 36% last year. Bad year.
Yeah. All right. So Chris is going to be here in a minute. So we are going to talk about a couple other things until he gets here. He's probably walking in the door right now. We're going to talk about. He's here. Oh, good. He's coming over. Okay. Some of the people that are racing that we know of, and anyone's input or comments around what they think about about this field. Yeah. Hi, Chris. How's it going? Good. Thanks for joining us. This is the Superpod. All right, we're going to interview you because you're the best.
Yeah,
we saved the best for last.
Step back.
Okay, well, real quick before we interview you, we're going to go through some people that are racing this year.
Okay.
And input from anyone on thoughts around them racing. So 2024, there are a few names that we are pretty much 100% are in the race. David Roach, 100-mile debut.
Coming off the 50-mile win.
Coming off the win at Silver Rush, running, was it a course record time? It was a six?
Well,
the
like course has changed like every year. So
yeah, okay. So very fast.
It was smoking.
Very
16 or something, and
yes.
you won by like 40 minutes. It was crazy.
Does anybody know why he's running 100? Like, what has he said anything about why now?
Yeah, I think that just in listening to, in listening to the podcast and just things I've heard, he's feels like it's time. Why not? He's getting older, may as well. He's also said that he's going to go for the record. He thinks it can be done. He's going to go for it. And then he went and ran on Hope Pass and took some Strava segments up there, which was pretty impressive. And then said after running on Hope, well, I know I'm going to be great until Winfield. We'll see coming back how it is. It became a little bit more of a reality, maybe. But obviously, with the Silver Rush, what he did at Silver Rush, I do think that he strives at altitude, which can absolutely be a superpower at Leadville.
I do too, and I love David to death. He was my coach for a very long time. I worry with him if he wobbles off course record pace, if he starts to hit the shit that you run into in 100-mile races, it may bite him. And I think Leadville, because of the altitude, because of Hope Pass, and if it's warm, and it could be warm, who knows, I think there's a lot of extra few variables that Leadville brings that maybe other 100-milers don't necessarily have. I think that may prove to be challenging for him. So we'll see. We'll see about him specifically.
Yeah. And historically, I think that's what happens with a lot of
Yes, Jared Hazen,
Cody Reed. There's been several elite people that have gone for the record over the years.
For sure.
And some of them, Tyler Andrews, he's been right there and chomping at the bit, and he hasn't had his maybe A race yet, but he's stuck it out. Cody Reed finished a very tough race, but yeah, Jared Hazen, he pulled the plug at Hopeless aid station outbound,
right?
Because he just knew it wasn't his day. Yeah, not even halfway in.
Yeah. Well, and I think Adrian McDonald is someone else. I think you should talk about him because I think you know him the best.
Well, I just think there is a lot of top-end talent. There's a couple people, and we'll probably talk about the others that are likely going for the course record. He's been close. I think he's run 16:05 and 16:09 or something very close to that in his two. So he's within 20, 30 minutes of the record with experience on the course. And if he's being pushed by some competition, which if I'm not mistaken, he has mentioned in the past that with some people running with him, it may have been able to help him shave some minutes off. He's probably got as good as a chance as any. And like a lot of the other elites, he's not someone that I see dropping. I think he'll run smart. He knows the course. He knows the variables that you were talking about, Graham. And I think he'll weather the storm, even if it means that maybe he's not going with the front people that are pushing the pace at the beginning. If he knows it's suicidal, he may take a step back.
Yeah.
That's just my guess.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think another one, Ryan Montgomery.
Yes.
He's going to be up there too. If I'm not mistaken, he's stated he's interested in that course record.
Yeah. And I think he's looking for redemption after having COVID at Western States. He was really fit going into Western. I think he's just kind of extended that in his training too there. He's been on Hope Pass. He took some crowns on Hope Pass the other day. I think he has the possibility of running something like that too.
Yeah.
He also lives at like 7,000 feet in Park City. I mean, who knows? He's definitely a possibility. I know there's other people, Reed Burrows, I know has been living and training, and I mean, his whole life seems to be at the moment revolved around Leadville. I saw some things about, what he wants to do out there, and I think he wants to go for the win. I don't know if he's outstated course record, but I think he's going to try to be out with the front pack. He's a little bit more of an unknown based on past results. I don't know if he can stick that.
Last year, he was right there with the leaders he was tied for the lead through Twin Lakes.
Okay.
I think he came into Winfield in second. I think finished ninth. But
yeah,
he'll be up there.
When Rob Carr is supposed to be back this year,
Is he?
it's on this list. It's possible.
Maybe.
According to the list,
Rumor mill?
I didn't put that on there. Russ must have put that on there. And if Russ put it on there, it's probably a good chance.
yeah.
That's awesome.
He did run Leadville Marathon. Does
Yeah.
anybody know if he took a coin?
I don't know.
And last year he was going for Leadman, wasn't he?
He was.
And then he could.
So who knows?
Yeah.
Because that's a lot on the body in a short period of time. If he's fresh and ready to rock, maybe he's going for course record. Yeah, maybe.
Well, if he's going for Leadman, we should know that.
I don't think he's going for that.
He didn't run Silver Rush,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
so that's a good sign.
JP Giblin, I think, is back in
Yes.
according to this, and obviously he knows
Returning
the course.
champ.
Very, very good. Yep. And then for women, Mary Denholm.
Yeah, Mary is a speedy roadster, 2-time Olympic marathon qualifying marathoner who's now moved into ultras and has been doing some big stuff. She won Silver Rush in a 7-something, very fast.
Yeah.
She was also at High Lonesome. She was pacing there. I've seen her Strava. She is crushing stuff. She's got a bunch of the segments on Hope. She seems to be a very good climber. And then, I've seen all these posts about, I come alive at above tree line, just speaking to how much she likes high altitude. So I'm almost 100% certain it's her 100-mile debut.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure she's lining up.
I mean, roads are good for this thing. 2/3 of the dang thing's on roads. So, I mean, that's not a bad thing. If she can survive Hope Pass unscathed, she may have something. Zoe Roman's running this year.
Yep.
I know TJ.
Redemption.
Yeah, her partner ran last year and she paced.
Well, Zoe, I believe, DNF'd at mile 90 of this race.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is a redemption tour for her.
Got it. Okay. And then Kelly Brophy, who I'm not familiar with.
I found her on Hope Pass as well. Looks like, or on Hope Pass segments as of late on Strava. So yeah, it looked like she's been doing some serious training, and then according to Instagram, she's racing and kind of going all in.
Yeah.
I don't know her, but
yeah,
her training looks really good.
That's awesome. Nicole Bitter, who's
Nicole Bitter.
Always a factor in any race that she signs up for.
She's been training on the course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Serbia, who is fast. She's got a win at JFK.
Yeah.
Which actually probably good training for this because half on trail, half on road.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you guys talked fine, I assume, because you went through everything.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you can add. I'm sure you have more.
No,
to say.
I don't know what was said, but he's been training. He was, so he had a difficult Western, unknowingly ran Western states with COVID. Covered that. Didn't go so well, but it was amazing that he finished. And I then kind of took like a week to reset. And then got right back into training. Went to Mexico City to climb Orizaba. So did that quick look.
18 and change.
18,000. Yeah, forget 14,000. We're gonna go to 18. Did a quick little 72-hour tour of Mexico City with Orizaba. Came back, went to Leadville, or went to Pace, his friend Rachel Norfleet, friend of mine at High Lonesome. So was up there at altitude, and then went to Leadville, and has been there for the last couple of weeks training. He's now going back to New Hampshire because he's starting a master's program, and orientation is next week. I was like, I thought you were going to be here for the whole time, but he's coming back. But he got some really good training, and he was running long days. He did Hope Pass 3 times in a row for one training day. So definitely like
out and back and out and back and
yeah, exactly. Has been putting in like, just big mileage, 130, 140 mile weeks with, 30,000 feet of climbing kind of stuff. So up there with the whole, with like the Zach Miller type training, currently being coached by Jason Coop, who is obviously pushing him to do a lot. So I'm excited to see. And he said that, he's going to go for it there too. So I'm excited to see it.
It's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun.
All right, Chris, we gave everybody nicknames. And your nickname
I read it, but I don't remember what it is.
is the omnipresent.
That's right. That sounds right. Even the year where I wasn't facing anybody, I was still there.
Yeah.
So crewing. Nobody had asked me to crew that year. I think it was 22.
Yeah.
Your year.
21.
21. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was just up there.
Throwing my children around and stuff like that. But,
exactly.
and cooking everybody food. But okay, since we already did intros, you need to intro yourself, who you are, what's your history with the race, and if you have one word to describe Leadville 100, what would that be?
Got it. Okay. My name's Chris Fernant. I am a member of the Castle Rock Running Club first and foremost, and because of that, I have been roped into the Leadville culture, the Leadville. I hesitate to say psychosis, but I feel like that's what it is. You get into something that you can't explain, and when you tell other people about it, it makes you sound like a crazy person. So I feel like maybe that is the right word. My history with the race started with reading Born to Run and hearing the stories around that and Trayson and everything, like the lore of the race. I read that book twice before having anything to do with the race. And so it was always just kind of this monumental thing that was part of the running community and it was kind of in the back of my mind. And then was it 2019 when you ran first time? So when Todd ran his first Leadville, I didn't, I knew what it was, but I didn't really understand it. And I understood it when Adam got involved.
We called him the mastermind.
At that point, I don't even know, maybe I'd met you once or twice. Maybe it was the first time I met you was when we got together at Todd's house to talk about Leadville. And I just remember Adam saying something to the effect of the energy, the feeling that you get when you're at Leadville during the race is like nothing else you've ever experienced. And I was like, I've been to a lot of running races. What are we talking about here? And only to get there and experience it. And seeing Todd run it that in 2019, I have never seen a person look like that, like during like a sporting event. And I've played a lot of sports. Like the look in his eye and the determination from start to finish as he came into the first couple aid stations, I was like, what is going on here? And I don't know how much time you want me to spend on like that first race experience.
As much as you want, whatever you want to share.
Well, so a lot of it, of course, I had the final leg. So most of the day is waiting around. We had, I think I brought Gretel up the first year, didn't I?
Gretel. You need to explain and define Gretel.
Yeah, so Gretel is a 1988 VW Vanagon camper bus. And she was parked at Twin Lakes right next to the path that takes you in and out of the trail from either direction. So every person that was at Twin Lakes walked past that van at least once. And so it was kind of a fun, camping out situation. But most of the day, because I was there to run the final leg from May Queen Inn, was really just kind of like standing around and listening to people and meeting people. And it was a ton of fun. But the whole time it was kind of like building up to the nervousness of having seen Todd be in such a zone for so long and continue to come aid station after aid station. Just A, him making it to the final leg, but B, my anxiety building of wanting to be ready. And you asked for one word to describe Leadville, but I can't do that. It's 2 words. It's sleep deprivation. And that is I am the worst at not sleeping. I brain function just starts tapering off very quickly after being up for 18 hours and every hour after that. So that experience of pacing Todd in from May Queen to the finish, it's at the time it was absolutely the coolest, the coolest thing I'd done in running for sure was pacing Todd to the finish on that final leg. It's only been outdone at other Leadville since. And so, no offense, but Russ took it this past year. But going through that with Todd where he was at that point in the race, and just A, being amazed he was on his feet, B, seeing the determination in his eyes and that he was going to finish it. I just never experienced anything like that. And then the whole time you're also running past other people who are also in that same mindset.
Zombie march.
Not to mention, not to name drop, but this is a podcast, David Goggins.
Yeah.
We were running by David Goggins for 4 miles. We were trading places with him. Todd was passing him. He was getting past. He saved us from getting lost at one point because we lost the trail down by the lake. And Goggins was like, "Hey, the trail's up here." And we had to come back.
Every time he passed you, did he just kind of quietly be like, "Stay hard"?
It was. He was actually I remember him being very personable. He wasn't the guy that's He was just yeah. But anyway, so that experience was just seeing Todd get to the finish line was just something that I couldn't have explained it. I couldn't have imagined there would be so much of a sense of pride to see somebody go through the entire day. And then I was hooked, right? That was year 1. And then we didn't have year 2, right? Because 2020 was a push essentially, but right back in it in 21, because that year, who was running in 2021 against Dedham? So yeah, so really just seeing the 2 of you guys go through that experience as well, and like you said, I was just happy to be there making food, and
It was both of our first 100, right? Justin had run one before that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
It was both of our, and we ran a fair amount of it together.
Yeah, and you covered this already, but it was Justin's 99.8.
Yeah.
We did not cover that.
You didn't cover. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, so-
Justin was going to be here. He's not here. We were
Yeah.
going to mess around with him.
Yeah, it was Justin's first 100, but not really.
Because his watch only said 99.8.
Yeah.
So the joke was we were going to buy him instead of LT100 sticker, make a sticker that said LT99.8 for him to put on his car. He has since run it again and completed a full 100 miles,
Right.
even though he cheated.
Yeah. Damn watch. So being there that second year, it was again like this whole other like set of emotions. Seeing what you went through, Corinne, to get to the finish line was so much different than like, you know, what Todd and then also where Justin was at that year in terms of getting through the race and seeing, you know, just getting that additional, I guess, you know, time out there on the course, time at Twin Lakes talking to people, time before the race, getting to experience the what do you call it, like the before the where they've got all
the pre-show,
Yeah.
the athlete meeting.
Yes, yeah, in the gym. That was super cool. That was the first time I went to that was your year.
Yeah.
And then again, I was just hooked in at that point. So what was 22?
22. We were not at. We were at UTMB.
Yeah.
So that was Justin and you.
Yeah. Again, getting. Yeah. So Todd that year was just on another level, right? Like that was the fastest. What was your time? 19 low.
1947.
Okay, 1947. I just that was another one of those where you think you've seen it all, and then you see somebody go out and run sub 20 hours, and we were having a hard time getting from place to place fast enough. Like that's what I remember. And this is, you know, there's you know, we can sides, you know, I'll try not to go out, but like the experience of doing this with Adam is, you know, to me, it's built its own kind of like its own culture around this race of like when we get up and we're there at 4 a.m. for the start and the racers are obviously, you guys have in your head something going on that I've never had to experience. But what we have in our head is we got to get back to that in truck and we have everything we need because guess what? We're driving fast out of here and we're taking every shortcut and we're cutting people off and we're crossing through town, probably on roads we're not supposed to be on. It's like this whole other like competitive nature that you get in. And it's not competitive for yourself. It's competitive on behalf of somebody else, which I don't know. I just love it. It is so much fun to do. And so that year I really felt like I started to learn what the crewing thing was all about. Like I really started to feel like, okay, I get this now. And then kind of wrapping up last year, getting to crew chief for Russ, it's an honor to be asked, and B, the knowing that what he was after was the finish, right? He wanted the finish. There, you know, the time wasn't the priority, and so constantly keeping that as my priority to go, okay, every time he comes in here, what are we talking about? What does he need? And all the normal stuff that, you know, here's the plan of which we won't follow after Outward Bound out. And so being able to kind of adjust to all that, but like that whole, you know, it's really like a 2-day period from the night before through the race to the next morning, of just 100% focus on getting the racer through the race on their own 2 feet and, you know, alive. And that, again, that getting the opportunity to pace him in that on the final segment from May Queen in it was a little different than Todd because he wasn't freezing to death. It was a little different than Todd because I was managing Russ having a caffeine overdose. It was a little different the time that we were doing it, right? Because we were, the first year that we did it was in the dark the whole time, and we came in the finish line in the dark, didn't we? Yeah. So, the sun came up as we were coming around Turquoise Lake, like with Russ, and so there was a whole other feeling to it in terms of where we were at, and Russ and I were very much taking in the moment through it and like talking about how great this is, and that piece of it was a little bit different experience, but it being him, somebody who I've run more miles with than anybody else, somebody who I've seen go from having not run a marathon in, what was that? I think we did our first marathon together. I mean, it was his first marathon. I had done plenty. But his first marathon, I think, was like 2015 or something like that. And, from that to Leadville 100, just knowing it's kind of like you play that video back in your brain for the entire 4 hours or whatever it is that we were out there on that segment of like, wow, how far we've come. And that piece of it to me was just something that, I don't know, that there'll never be another version of that. But just that's the most proud of, I've been personally to be able to be a part of it. Like, so those are all the races.
All right.
And again this year.
And so, so this year,
what's your role this year?
Dave, so I critiqued well enough last year for somebody to be dumb enough to ask me to do it again this year. So Dave Leung has asked me to crew chief for him this year, and I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to it. Dave is dialed in. His training block has been like surgical, no pun intended.
He's a surgical assistant.
Yeah. And he is just, he's in really good shape. I think his mind's in a good place on it. And I think there's a good plan. So I'm really looking forward to it.
And we ran with him last weekend, and at one point, towards the end of the run, he was like, "All right, guys, go. I can't keep up with you." And so we get to the end of the run, we're waiting around, we're like, wonder when he's going to get here. And I tell you what, 30 seconds later, he shows up, and we're like, "Woo, Dave is fit."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
He's ready to go. Every time I've run with him, I have the opposite problem. He's gone. And the whole time I'm running with him, he's just yapping like he's not breathing, and I'm like, so I feel really good about where he's at. Also, like, with Russ going into it, he was managing some injuries and things like that just from training, and I feel like Dave's in a really good spot. I don't want to speak for him or anything like that, but I feel like he's done really well recovery wise, strength wise. Dave doesn't need me to tell him, but he listened when I said it would be a good idea to do strength training, unlike Russ, who did it 3 times and then never did it again. 100%. Russ, Russ. We didn't make it very far into the strength training regimen of Russ's lead up to Leadville. But Dave had that as part of his arsenal, so his ability to withstand the grueling nature, especially the downhill of Hope Pass coming inbound. That to me is the thing that beats up so many runners.
Totally agree.
Being able to handle that downhill, having the core strength, I feel like it's just it really sets people apart. They're coming into Twin Lakes inbound in a different state when they're ready for that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 questions before we then go around. To finish off, I think we need to each read one of your, because when we put out the outline for this, Chris came back with a small novel, but they're hilarious points, and so we're each going to read one of them. We will go around. to finish it out. But real quick, a couple of questions about number one, because Chris is not here to answer this question. And you alluded to it with the caffeine overdose. Do you have any idea how in God's name he ate so many raspberry limeade goo gels?
It was cherry limeade.
Cherry limeade.
Cherry limeade.
Cherry limeade goo gels. He
Caffeinated.
caffeinated.
45 milligrams of
In each one?
each one.
And he was eating them every 20 to 30 minutes?
Yes.
So the question is how he did it, or why, or just like how we got into that situation.
Anything you can tell us about that whole, because number one, it's impressive that they didn't just start throwing them all up.
Well, right. So that's so somewhere in that novel I wrote, one of the things is you start with this plan, this well balanced. I have this many spring energies of this particular type. I want, every time he would go out, he had a good, balanced diet of various things that were supposed to be consumed. And at a certain point, what happened is, like it happens to most runners in these races, is nothing sounds good. He just got to a point where nothing sounded good, and that was the only thing that he could continue to, he could stand it, and he knew that he needed to be putting calories in. I don't think he really understood the caffeine situation. I don't know that he knew there was caffeine in every one of those, because it was Twin Lakes inbound when we figured it out, right? And I'm looking at Kyle here. We started counting the cherry limeades, and then we figured out that we're like, are these the caffeinated, version? He was like, yes, and he had 8 empty ones. I was like, oh my god!
That's like 450 milligrams of caffeine.
And that was
just getting warmed up.
Yeah,
Oh my.
Because that was like 6
cups of coffee.
Woo!
When he went out, I said to Kyle, and then I said the same thing to Jess. I was like, you need to make sure he doesn't continue consuming these. And I don't think either of them did a good job at that.
Because it was all he wanted, and it's the only thing that tastes good. When we got to what's the aid station?
You built a meth
half
pipe.
Yeah, half pipe. He just was like, grab 10 of those. It sounded good, and he was so rigid. Every 30 minutes, it was, I'm eating one, and that's all that tasted good, and that's all he wanted.
Yep. And so it was. You're balancing 2 things, as I'm sure when you were out there pacing him, you're balancing. He needs to eat something, and if he's going to eat this, better than nothing, right? So, so that's how we end up in that situation. So I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it for anybody. I do think that he was probably giving people at the space station. He was giving those people run for their money in terms of how much caffeine he had versus whatever else was being consumed up there. I think Russ was probably flying higher than just about anybody else that went through that night. So I'll leave it at that.
So we estimate he consumed how much caffeine? Probably.
I think he said he ate 22 of those.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think it was more than that though. I think it was 26 or 28 of them.
That's 45 grams.
Yeah. And also earlier in the race, there were other things that had caffeine in them. He didn't get on the cherry limeade until later.
1,260 grams of caffeine. 1,260 milligrams of caffeine. That tops his, Tom Evans did take in an 800 during Black Canyon 100K. So maybe in the same amount of time that tops it, I don't know. That's
well, yeah, we're not counting for any of the caffeine he took earlier because cherry limeade was not on the plan at all. There was never that was just that was from Twin Lakes outbound. And so he was taking other stuff earlier when you would want to be having caffeine, right? Earlier in the race. So I don't know what the actual count is. We did have pictures of all the empties at one point.
And it gives me chills at my spine to see him consume any cherry limeade type stuff. If it's a sparkling water, it gives me chills up my spine to think about the way his teeth must have felt. And I think about that, and it literally gives me chills to my spine. And I need to consume them, and I will not touch a cherry limeade on his behalf. Yeah, but he said I sent him a picture the day after, and I was like, took a picture one because I did have one still left over in my pack. I was like, Russ, how does this look? He's like, I consume one right now.
Really? Wow.
That got any caffeine in it?
Yeah.
I limited him to, I think it was only 2 of them on May Queen Inn. I'm mean enough and, I've known him long enough that I could force him to eat other things. But he didn't eat much, but it was, it was something other than that.
And I was just passing the talk. I was like, I know Chris will take care of it. We're doing now. We're doing well now. So.
All right, so we've been going for a really long time, so we're going to do just a few of your hilarious points about pacing and crewing for the end. So if there's any of these that you guys want to read that you think are particularly funny, but I guess we'll start with your first one. Well, in advance of the race, a crew chief needs to encourage their runner to do core and strength workouts, even though the runner won't want to and won't do them. So we already talked about that. You want to read another one?
Sure. You want to read the second one?
Whichever one you want.
A crew chief needs to practice high-stress scenarios ahead of the race in order to prepare for the 30 hours of anxiety that we experience, starting a few hours before the start and extending right up until the runner crosses the finish line. What I have done is meditate on what it was like before each of my kids were born.
It's about the same. In honor of Todd, I like this one. This is one of my favorites. Tell stories and make them listen to music that they don't want to hear. Invent conversation. Don't let there be silence.
We spent several hours together on one of those nights while I was freezing my butt off. And I think I said 5 words, and Chris said everything. Got me through it, though.
But now what do you know everything in the world about? Is it Pearl Jam?
Yeah.
Yeah, see? He's a Pearl Jam connoisseur.
I like this one. Whatever you do, don't under any circumstance decide to use the porta potty 5 seconds before your runner comes in and make them wait for you to start the final leg of the race. Chris has never done that and would never do that. He actually took off last year.
Another one. The week of the race, a crew chief needs to purchase the largest pop-up tent available on the internet to accommodate the hordes of people that will be partying, patiently waiting for their runner at Twin Lakes.
I just had this conversation with somebody, I think it was this morning when we were running. It's important to have an arsenal of excuses as to why your runner isn't at the aid station at the exact time their run chart said they would be there. One that I like, she probably stopped to get all the rocks out of her shoe, even though you know damn well an ultra runner would never stop to get rocks out of their shoe. They'll wait to the very end of the race where they've already injured themselves. He's probably hanging out at the creek crossing to cool down. The mashed potatoes at Winfield are so good, she couldn't pass them up. That one's real. Or, so I'll let you guys take as many as you want, but the other one, I don't even remember where it's in here, so I'm just going to go from memory. But you're not just responsible for the runner. One of the most important things you can do is be ready with every excuse possible to calm the families of the runner down, because they are all wondering, where are they, and are they okay? And so the crew chief's job is to tell their mother, they're fine. It's okay. We've seen her do this all the time. She's going to be just fine. Don't worry.
That's what you were talking to Corinne's dad about.
Yeah.
Oh, my poor father.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Trust me, she bleeds from her ears every time she runs. Yeah. Jackie Ditzworth was, really wanting to know where Russ was, 2 hours late coming down from Hope Pass. I'm like, he's fine. When inside, I was panicking. Yeah.
We've got don't fall asleep, and if you do, don't admit that you fell asleep. Your point on that is if you're maybe going to pace late, maybe don't go to the start. Right. If it's possible, like in all reality. The aid stations are an opportunity to show off just how organized and over-prepared you are. You need to be ready for anything. You need to be embodying a level of service on par with that of a maitre d' at a 5-star hotel. Whatever your runner asks for, you better be able to come up with it, and come up with it fast. Because if you don't hit their 24-hour stretch goal by 20 seconds
And it was because you couldn't find the lemon scratch mix, not the berry scratch mix quickly enough at mile 24. You will never forgive yourself.
Sounds like grilled cheese to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Justin took some grilled cheese in, and his race turned right around. Update the crew with current locations and photos, even if you have no service. And by the time the texts go out, they will be confusing as hell because they are on a 35-minute delay. We should just read the last couple here. Are you climbing? As you're climbing, read that one.
As you are climbing the final miles coming back into town, know your damn running history so you don't make a fool of yourself by not knowing all the past winners of the race who have now memorialized on the roadside signs.
Oh yeah, they put pictures.
Yeah, it's really cool actually.
I don't know if I remember that.
Yeah, I think last year was the first
I
year.
think it was the first. Yeah, last year was
I
the first.
paced you at the very end.
It was there.
Was it there?
It was there.
It was okay. So yeah,
We were just too wrapped to even pay
Yeah.
attention.
yeah. It's actually I think like a really cool thing about the race because you're kind of coming in and you realize you're a part of this history, right? And then when you see how many people won it multiple times too, like it's for sure. And Russ knew them all, and I'm like, I don't know.
Of course he
I know like 3 of these people.
Yeah.
I know Anton and Dan.
No. We had 2 more.
Let your runner cross the finish line first. There are plenty of other people who are going to get the photo of them crossing the line. The last thing they want is to get passed while running up the red carpet.
This is true. You got to read the last one.
Congratulations, your runner finished. Don't expect a pat on the back. It's not about you. You didn't just run 100 miles. You mostly sat on your ass and spent the previous 30 hours glamping.
Very good. Great words. Awesome. Well, yeah, so just to wrap it, I think Leadville's super important part of all of our lives in one way or another, and it's brought us all together. And it's a cool race that I think most people should experience in some capacity.
Yeah, even if you're not racing, if you have the ability to just go spectate, it's getting harder, but go to Outward Bound or whatever and see what it's about.
And I think it's going to change, I don't know. I think we're going to see a live stream of this race in the very near future and maybe some change in ownership. So who knows what it will become in the future.
Whatever it becomes, I don't think it can possibly lose the Leadville mystique, the aura, the sense of whatever it is that Adam was talking about that is that race. I just don't think anybody can ruin that.
Yeah. And I don't think so either. And every course has its own unique challenges, but it's like a deceptively challenging course for many reasons. And I think that's just been proven out in the fact that so many people have tried to run it very fast and not been able to. I remember Jared Hazen was going for the record, ended up dropping. Was that inbound or right around at Twin Lakes 1? Outbound. Yeah. Oh, you talked about that. Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, I don't know. Predictions on when the men's course record will be broken?
Not this year.
Not until we see the start list.
That's a good answer.
Oh, I have no predictions. I don't know anything about it.
Okay, we already talked about that. No predictions. And then the women's, I agree with you guys. I think it'd be cool to see Courtney just go for it.
Do her thing.
That would be cool.
It's one that she doesn't have yet, so go get it, Courtney. All right, on that note, thanks for listening for this long. If you lasted this long,
You're a true fan.
you're a true fan.
You too could run the one Leadville laying this on.
Yeah, I know. No, this might be a very long run if you listen to the whole thing. So let us know what you think about Leadville, and if we missed anything, and if you know anybody that's racing this year, send me a message.
And good luck to all the racers.
Good luck to the racers, the pacers, spectators, the families,
members.
the family members.
Hope to see you in Leadville.
May God be with you all.
Yeah, say hello if you see us out there.